Congrats.
Existing research.
Evening, I'm gonna call to order the meeting of the Southborough Zoning Board of Appeals for October 8th, 2024. We are in person, but we are also virtual. So tonight we do have one of our members, Doug Mans, is virtual, and then you have the four of us here. So first item on our agenda tonight is 104 Sears Road, Zachary Demas, special permit. You have the notice?
Yeah. The Board of Appeals of the Town of Southborough will hold a public hearing at the Public Safety Training Room, 32 Porterville Road, Tuesday, October 8th, 2024 at 7:00 p.m. with regard to the petition of Zachary Demas, 104 Sears Road, Southborough, Mass, map 29, lot 1. The petitioner is seeking a special permit to allow more than 3 garage bays. The property is located in the Residence A zoning district, and relief is requested under section 174-8.2B12.
Good evening, Peter Bemis. Where would you like me to present? Because I don't know if you use the audio visual for the exhibits that I submitted.
I can share anything.
And I have them on the board, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's easier, I can just present from here, and then if you need to put them in your.
No, I think that works.
Okay, great. So,
Yeah.
full disclosure, I'm Peter Bemis. It's my son's property, and
I was literally.
I cannot wait to get him out of my house.
I was
For the third
so
time,
confused.
The college was one, then another home
Okay.
in New Jersey, then another home, and I guess it'll be the 4th time.
All right,
But
but
it seems to be the rebound, another rebound.
But okay.
So, 104 Sears, a house built in 1953. So we've got an existing garage bay that's on the south side of the dwelling. And the proposal is to put an addition on the north side. The north side would be normal conventional garage doors. The one on the south side, they're very low. Not practical to be able to pull even a small pickup truck into, so they're just not functional. We filed for a building permit. We got the building permit. We were going to just take out one of the garage doors. It's quite costly to actually make the door to look like a garage door, so it looks normal, but it's not a garage door operating. So we went back to the building inspector and discussed it because we're adding, 2 more bays really on the north side. So the theory being is let's come to the ZBA, ask for permission for the added bays. We can just put conventional doors in. They'll be short, but it'd just be a lot cheaper. So that's really what it comes down to, is it's just a cost. So we gave an architectural so you can see what it looks like. We're trying to have a carriage house look, trying to create a craftsman style house. Retaining walls are going in now, so it's looking pretty good. I would look forward to your support for this. If you need more presentation, I can give it to you and cite some rationale for it other than what I just described, but pretty much that's why we're doing it. There'll be 4 garages technically here.
Right, yeah. So my first question, what's the height of the garage doors, the existing ones now?
They're, I want to say it's 7-ish.
Yeah.
Like they're low. Then I think typically you do 8 today.
And the house was built in 1953.
53.
I mean, I'm just gonna, my own personal experience with the first home we lived in was, I think, built in 1959. And we almost never put the car in the garage
Correct.
because
you
they weren't made to fit a car. So that's just my own, I don't know if you've had.
I had the exact experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's really just storage space at the end of the day anyways, but it's the function, it's just trying to create a look. We want the house to look like it's meant to be there as a craftsman style home. And it really just comes down to being able to put a man door there that's functional to open up to let you put something in the store.
Okay.
Garage doors are going to be just a lot easier. It's going to look better.
Can I ask on towards the south side of the property, it's a proposed something's proposed there that.
An addition on the back of the house. Yeah, that complies with everything.
That complies
It's all
with
set, right? So there's an addition, that's actually where his bedroom's going to go.
Okay,
Because again, it's a small house footprint too.
yeah. All right, and otherwise, like, there's no setback.
No, everything worked compliance wise. It's
Okay.
just really that and trying to keep the integrity of the existing home. So it's a pretty neat old house.
Okay.
And I think architecturally, you can see what he's trying to create. It's gonna look pretty neat.
Okay. All right, Jamie, any questions?
Joe Bides, I have no problem with it.
Doris?
No questions, but the existing garage is my grandparents had a house like this where the garage was under the house, the two garage.
That's right,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
kinda-
The addition's the same way too. There's too much gradient there to do it any other way.
Oh, I see.
Interesting.
We looked at doing an attached grade and you would have had a steep driveway coming up and
Yeah.
swooping around, actually have to go to the planning board to cut down a few trees. So we elected not to do that and we didn't have to cut any trees.
Well, could you put the house, there's a picture of the house in the application.
There was one, yeah.
Yeah, it is just, so what that would become, those garage doors that exist now, they're just gonna stay garage doors? I know it's still gonna stay a garage that's not used.
Well, it'll be a garage, but you just can't function with a car in there. So we
Yeah,
use it
no,
for
I
storage.
understand.
So he's,
Yeah, the whole house
you know,
shapes.
he's
in the
got
car, that's
kayaks
why.
and he's
I
got
know the
things
house.
like
Yeah.
that. So you can see the,
Yeah,
I know it.
you can almost see the van isn't gonna clear when it pulls up any further. Cause it still would have to go up to get on the slab. So it would pretty much touch going
oh,
in.
yeah, that's, okay. I think all the butters were, we had no butters having an issue.
We
with it at all.
notified everyone. And my son's been communicating with everyone with the construction work anyway.
Okay,
So could you put the final plan up, the plan?
Yeah.
It's just gonna look better, I think, so. Overall.
Bear with me, scrolling through.
Down.
All those Zoom things on the way.
This has been really easy to follow, I completely understand it, just, yep. Curious what the house was gonna look like,
Yeah, the next sheet is the architectural.
yeah, that sheet.
You have to scroll down.
Oh, you want the next
one
one?
more.
Sorry.
yeah, just. Yep. Zoom out a little. Kind of gives some balance.
Yeah,
Right, it's really gonna, in my case, it's gonna make it much better. Much better.
All right,
Okay,
Mike? And we don't have any, with no butters, no neighbors
No.
here, that nobody has any problem. Okay. Doug?
No, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, no comments. I reviewed. It looks good. I don't have any objections.
Okay. Okay. All right, if we have nobody from a board or public or an abutter that wants to say anything, there's nobody that's tuned in that's with a hand up, right?
No hands.
make a motion to close the public hearing.
second it,
All right, motion to close the public hearing has been made and seconded. All in favor, respond with aye, opposed nay. Jamie,
Hi.
Doris,
aye,
Mike,
Aye.
Doug.
Aye.
All right, and Williams, I have to close the public hearing. Don't think we need a lot of discussion, so
Make a motion to approve the petitioner's request as drafted.
Second.
all right, motion to approve the application has been made and seconded. All respond in favor with aye, opposed nay. Jamie,
Hi.
Doris,
aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
and Williams, aye.
Great, thank you. All right, good evening. Take
Okay,
care.
thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, just as a follow-up to our conversation with the decision on Park Central. Do we, as a board, want to start going through like findings that we found that the property is not more detrimental? I feel like it's a bit redundant, but at the same time, like, if we want to, as a board, go through findings. For the decision.
Oh, like for this particular decision?
Yeah. You know how we really kind of laid that out in the last decision?
Yeah,
But a lot of boards will go through. You know, I found that the petitioner seeking a special permit,
yeah,
seeing is that there's no objections of the neighbors, finding that there's no opposition to this, and also finding that it's in conformity with the other properties of this neighborhood on the street. We find that.
right,
I just don't know if we want to go through that, Laura, because you're writing the decisions.
right,
So I just don't know.
You can't hurt.
right.
You can never hurt.
Okay, we can try to tighten that up. a little.
Yeah,
Just because I think it's a smart thing to do. Kind of. Special permits are important. But,
Yeah, no, that's fine.
okay, I just wanted to touch base on that.
so what would you recommend that does not?
So seeing, It doesn't derogate from the zoning district that it's in, that it's in conformity with the other houses in that neighborhood. And the change of the increased use is not detrimental.
Yeah, I think, Laura actually does a pretty good job of capturing some of those high points.
Okay.
But I think it's a fair point, like it's. Perhaps before we leave this, because can't do anything for another 5 minutes anyway,
No, but that's
you might as well, just agree on the general finding.
findings.
And then we can always, try to make it align up a little bit more with what's in the zoning code, right?
That's exactly.
That's it. What you said, increased use is not that.
It's not an increased use, but the addition of the bay would not be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood that it's. And so then what we're doing is we're meeting with our own bylaws with respect to
Right.
special permit, and we've laid out findings based on our review of the proposal.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and I think it is important to make sure that. It is very clear, like why we came to this.
That's it.
Here's what we found. And use language that comes from the zoning.
That's exactly.
Now,
And I think it's an idea to tighten up just because it's a good practice to have. And after having that last one, we're really trying to keep it super tight. And like, yeah, we can, we don't have to be sick to get better.
Are you guys okay with
If that's
putting in
all right.
the that it'll be them for garage page? District.
Yeah. Variance is important because we have much more of a structured legal component to follow. I think it's consistent, just be consistent with special permits.
I'll see if that thing's scheduled for second. Oh,
You can take
I don't know. Wasting time.
Oh, I thought it was.
All right. Once again, Laura, there's. Get something out that I'm missing. We do have 250 Turnpike on the agenda for 7 p.m. So we can certainly talk about that. I don't know that there's a lot to talk about, but by all means, we have a couple minutes here. Would you like to go ahead?
Yes, if you don't mind, just a few updates, as you said, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Good evening, DBA members and Ms. Davis. For the record, I'm Brian Charville, joined by George Bonin. We're co-counsel for the applicant FD 250 Turnpike LLC. We're joined tonight by our project engineer, James Tatro of Expedit Engineering, and also to his right, our project architect, Monty French, who you remember from Monty French Design Studio in Boston. The updates we'd like to touch on. Our last hearing on the 250 Turnpike project and that 40B was in late August. We talked then with you all about the 32 townhomes approach. And we mentioned how we had a good meeting with the neighbors in July. And we're proceeding on to the change site plan sheets. That drafting continues, which has been a good thing in the sense that we've continued to get feedback from the neighbors. Most recently, yesterday, Attorney Andre sent us some feedback that he had gotten from his clients. And so we're going to work to incorporate that. Our goal with Mr. Tatro is to submit the complete site plan reflecting the townhomes sometime next week. So you have everything you need, which I think will dovetail nicely with the board's peer reviewers. They've all been engaged as of last week, thanks to your staff, and the applicant has paid their retainers for their fees. So you have, as with the other projects, a civil reviewer. Yeah, I said we're in the process of paying the retainer. You have a civil reviewer, wetlands and traffic, as with the other projects. So that'll proceed. That's really it for updates. Looking ahead of your schedule, I know there's a scheduled meeting on November 20th, which would be 7 weeks from tomorrow. It's a Wednesday. And so I thought that may be a good target if your agenda has space for this to be taken up in substance.
Yeah, well, as it turns out, that's not going to be a good move for me. So I had let Ms. Davis know and the fellow board members that we do need to find another date in November, so, I don't know if. Or it's gonna be workable for you, or,
Definitely,
okay,
Okay.
that works for us. And I think, I'm thinking this week and next for Mr. Tatro to finish. And then a good, 3 weeks for peer review
okay,
would be enough. Which would take us to, probably the 6th or 13th for Wednesdays.
Into the 20th, so. And you think that's gonna be sufficient for peer review?
I think so, yes.
Okay, I would think so, but I just wanna check.
so, sorry, we're talking about November 13th?
Yep.
Okay. Doug, how's that for you?
That's awesome.
That works for me.
Doris,
Works for me.
Jamie?
Right now it's open. I can't 100% promise with my daughter's playoff schedule, but
Right.
likely it will work.
Right.
So-
It's like work. Okay, and you can't schedule.
7 PM here, if we don't know where.
Yeah, probably was on there.
I mean, if you guys prefer here, I can try for here, but.
Doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't make it.
Just need to know.
I'll let you know.
Okay. Um.
Um, we have, since we're on the topic of scheduling. I have 2 regular applications
Okay,
that
What
need to
for?
be scheduled.
what's on?
One is a special permit for more than 3 garage bays, and one is a special permit and variance for an accessory apartment.
Ah, those are gonna be coming. Those ADUs are gonna be coming.
So we would probably put those on the agenda first.
Yeah.
Get to these guys, I don't know.
So 7:17, I'd say 7:30,
7:30.
6:15, 7:30, on the 13th.
All right,
All on
that works.
13,
That's
all on the 13th. Stack them in the rack and.
nothing on the 20, if you're taking that out.
No,
And those-
no,
Remember the 20th.
I'm not taking your cues, Doris, and going overseas and still being on the call.
Yeah, yeah, no.
You set
Yeah,
a standard that.
make
I'm
me
unwilling
look
to
bad.
meet.
Yeah, come on.
You
No.
realize where I went, right? So that sounds over, that's over surface.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'm not even going that far.
Yeah.
east, but,
Like, okay, there we go.
Where you going?
I don't know if there's one they really look at. Functions at all.
Yeah, I did want to ask about that. I don't know where we are in terms of. When we're supposed to. Come to a conclusion on 250. Because we have pushed it, I mean, at least we're, we've obviously had a couple meetings where all we're doing is pushing it out a little further.
Looking at the agenda, it says that this application was filed May 23rd. Sounds right. So we are at the point where we should talk about extending, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Um, I'm tempted to say the end of December or even the end of January. For it to close the hearing.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay.
January, probably more realistic,
I
given
think
the
it's more
January
realistic with the holidays and everything else.
Yeah,
the peer reviewers haven't seen the new plans yet.
No.
I think we need a little bit of time on that,
Yeah,
get some comments back.
yeah, if you're really, I mean, if the plan is to have something. That's available for peer review next week, I think I would agree, I think January is. More reasonable, I think end of December is gonna be,
Really pushing it.
there's no reason to.
I think we're gonna push it and not hit it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you'll indulge me just one moment.
Sure.
That's fine.
Sure.
Check
Of course.
the schedule.
Yep.
Yes, if January 31st, 2025 is all right.
Right.
Like that. To close, as the deadline to close the public hearing,
Yeah,
and we can send a confirmatory letter.
then,
Okay.
you beat me to it.
Let's say we It's about.
But
We have to-
extension.
Yeah.
If you get that to me tomorrow, I can file it with the town clerk.
Yeah, it says, okay. That's all we need for. Okay, so. And we just need a vote to continue the hearing until November 13th at 7:30.
is there any other public discussion on this?
Oh. Good point. I don't know that there's any. I can't imagine that
I just wanted to check.
there's not much to talk about.
Yeah, make a motion to close the public hearing?
No.
Not that much, no.
No, because it's a continuation,
Continue
sorry,
to November 13th,
Yeah.
7:30.
yeah, sorry.
And we can say it again.
Make a motion to continue this to November 13th at 7:30.
Second,
All right. Motion to continue to November 13th at 7:30, been made and seconded, all in favor, respond with aye, opposed nay. Jamie?
aye.
Rose?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Okay, very good. Okay, so. Next item, we have 3 items that are on our agenda at 7:15. They're all 120 Turnpike Road, comprehensive permit and special permit, which we have been discussing. But there's also the variance to permit 344 parking spaces. I don't know if you don't think there's any difference in the order, right?
It will, no. It would have
So
followed.
I would, unless we're gonna somehow get impacted by the other discussions, I would prefer that we take that up first.
Yes.
So,
That's fine.
okay. Now, do you have, if something you want to present or just talk about?
Yes, I can make an introduction. and
sorry.
Laura has a
Sorry.
PDF.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
She's gotta do the
I-
Oh,
public
that's
hearing.
The Board of Appeals of the Town of Southborough will hold a public hearing at the Public Safety Training Room, 32 Porterville Road, Tuesday, October 8th, 2024 at 7:15 PM. With regard to the petition of FD 120 Turnpike LLC, 120 Turnpike Road, Southborough, Mass, map 37, lot 120-4. The petitioner is seeking a variance to permit 344 parking spaces. The property is located in the Business Highway zoning district. Relief is requested under section 174-12E13 and section 174-
Thank you. For the record, again, my name is George Bonan, Assistant General Counsel, Ferris Development Group. With me is my co-counsel, the General Counsel, Ferris Development Group, Brian Charville. As Laura stated, we are seeking a variance, a parking variance to allow 344 parking spots in the proposed Lot A. And since we're taking it out of order, proposed Lot A would be the proposed lot created after the subdivision of the proposed 40B lot. And on that lot are 2 existing office buildings that currently are 65% occupied. And we're seeking a variance because we had moved the location from the proposed 40B building atop the hill to the lower level parking lot. And what that did was eliminate parking spots that we can't recreate. So now, in order for the 2 office buildings to remain parking compliant, we need to seek a variance. I'm gonna throw some numbers at you, and I basically conducted a parking count myself, 13 parking counts. 7 were done in mid-June and 6 were done in mid-September. And there was a slight bump in the September counts, but generally stayed very consistent. I found that the average of cars parked in the parking lot during the morning hours was 104 with a high number of 129. And I also found that at 5 o'clock, the average number dwindled down to about 33 with a high of 44 parking spots.
And we can assume that based on these numbers, even if you add 20% increase to the high number, bringing it to about 155 cars parked, and also factoring in 100% occupancy of the existing buildings, we wouldn't eclipse 240 cars parked at the lot, on the lot.
What was the occupancy? What is the occupancy?
Right now, it's 65%.
And that's if you blend the two buildings, leases,
Collectively, it's 65.
the two office buildings. A lot of people don't know this, but that lot to the west that's highlighted in purple. You see it and it looks like it's associated with the Veristat building or the other building next to us, but it actually serves 118 and 120.
And I'll note that I took parking counts of the entire site, that area included, and there's cars parked there. Obviously, cars that weren't serving the two office buildings, 118 and 120 Turnpike, but more likely the other buildings that are not on proposed lot A.
What's that? I mean, the buildings
So-
are further to the west.
Correct, yes, that's our parking lot, but it was being used by another building, so. So with I'll get into now the parking lots, and before I move forward, I should note that the plan you see in front of you that Laura has up, the area highlighted in blue, which is pretty much all you can see right now, is the parking spots that are proposed to serve the two existing office buildings, and that's proposed lot 4A. And then you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, the red highlight, that's going to be the proposed parking spots for lot 4B, which is the proposed 40B building lot. And there, thank you, Laura. Okay. So with the creation of that 40B building, we'll be eliminating 135 spots from the entire site, and I should say the entire site currently has 532 spots. So we'll be eliminating 135 spots from that, but at the same time adding 49 new spots. And that'll create a net loss of 86 spots. And what will remain is 446 spots for the entire site. That's lot 4B and lot 4A, 446. We plan to allocate 102 parking spots to the 40B lot, leaving lot 4A with 344 parking spots. And as I've just said, even after the parking counts, the high number I got was 125, but that's taking into account a 65% occupancy rate of the existing two buildings. But bumping that number up, bumping the high number of 129 up by 20%, and factoring 100% occupancy, we wouldn't eclipse 240 parking spots. And we're proposing 344 spots left over for the two buildings, which is plenty. And this is in part due to the reduction in office use that COVID caused. As we all know, this board has been to the office part to 120 Turnpike and has seen firsthand the lack of cars that are there. And as a practical point, I'll point to the concept of shared parking. Now, we're not formally proposing a shared parking concept because there may be changing ownership in the future, and that's one of the elements to create shared parking. But as a practical matter, there will be some shared parking going on. So, you know, the 40B residents may leak onto the proposed lot 4A, and the office tenants during the day would probably leak onto proposed lot 4B.
How does that typically work? Shared parking spaces?
It's nothing more than a document, I'd imagine, a shared parking system memorialized and written down on paper. But beyond that, there's nothing more specific. There's nothing that needs to be done to the lot itself. It's just used by both uses, by both sites.
So are you suggesting you would do that, or are you just saying?
We're not formally proposing it. It just, as a practical point, that's probably what's gonna happen, so that there will always be parking available for both the residents at the 40B parcel and the tenants at the existing office lot.
mean, his comments are just. Parking regulations are silent regarding long-term reserved or shared parking. This is from our building commissioner, sorry.
Okay,
I'm in favor of such strategies that utilize parking areas and hopefully use it post COVID. Found it in the past, it's been helpful. It's just quoting like nearby towns. He asked the question, what is the formula behind the 1.6 spots for 1,000? Is that for the office building?
correct.
Yeah. That's standard, 1.6 or not?
It's not standard. The Southborough zoning bylaw right now requires 3.5 parking spots per 1,000 square feet of office.
Okay.
So this would be a reduction in that, and that's why we're requesting the relief.
Yeah, okay. 'Cause, I mean, you're using empirical evidence, you're not
Correct.
counted, okay? There are concerns in our request we made of the property. I don't know about an I mean, how, an A and R request, I don't know. How would that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know
How would there be
I
an
mean,
A and R request?
Well, the plan is to subdivide the parcels with the approval of the 40B.
Right.
So that's how it would happen, and
Get them.
Yeah. Humbly request an updated keyed parking plan for the areas designated teams as well as those designated as shared parking.
Yeah,
If
I get
granted.
that. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah. It is reasonable, I'd say. I'm sorry, did you hear? I don't know if I said it clearly. He's saying in this letter, I would humbly request an updated keyed parking plan for the areas designated to each use, as well as those designated as shared parking, if granted.
I think so. I think that had been suggested to us before, and that's why we had color coded the plan as you see.
Okay.
I guess the only thing that'd be missing is, would there be any certain areas that would be designated shared?
No, there were not.
Okay,
The shared parking concept is just a practical point out.
so yeah, the shared is really more informal. It's not like
Correct.
those marked spots that say office use must leave by 5.
Correct.
Resident use must leave by 9 AM or something like that. Doug, do you have any questions?
Yeah, it's two quick questions. What days of the week did you guys do the surveys on? I heard you did them in June and September. I was just curious, what days of the week did you guys do them on?
I can give you the exact dates, but they were all done Monday through Friday.
Okay, but you included Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays?
I did, yep.
Okay. And then what is the ratio now? I know it's supposed to be 3.5, but what is the drop to now? Based upon 344, I may have missed that number, but what is the new number of spaces per 1,000 square feet?
So it would be, well, it would be 163,000. And
You said 1.6. That where the 1.6 came from? That's right.
That's what I thought.
Just a little over 2 spaces per 1,000. Am I doing the math right?
you are, yes.
We have it at 2.11.
We have it to, okay.
344 spaces divided by 163,000. For the office, for lot 4A, the office parcel. 2.11.
So is the 1.6 for the 40B? Is that where that number came from?
Yes, that's per unit.
That's 1.7.
Okay.
1.7 is the,
Is for the residents, is it based on bedrooms?
the Southborough zoning bylaw bases it on bedrooms, yes, it's 3 parking spaces for every 3 bedroom. And then 2 parking spaces for every, or I should say, 3 parking spaces for every 3 or more bedroom. And 2 parking spaces for every 1, 2, or studio.
Okay. All right, and
And we can, and the 1.7 for the 40B lot, that's gonna be a separate argument in our 40B
that's not right.
discussion, but 1.5 is a widely accepted ratio nationally.
Go with you, Doug.
I think those are, sorry, those are all the questions I have for now.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions on the variance.
Okay, thank you. Jamie?
I don't know how far we need to delve into this, but I get the idea of the shared parking. It makes sense to me. Is there anything that needs to be done now if either of those properties were to be sold to kind of ensure, I guess, that I don't know how that works.
No, and that's partly the benefit of not formally proposing a shared parking concept, that one lot could be sold and it would be zoning compliant on its own.
Okay, I guess, I don't know, but is the question more, if you sell the office buildings, are you gonna create a conflict at some point on the parking spaces
Right.
between the 40B and the office buildings?
No, you wouldn't, because of if this board approves the variance in front of it, you'd be allowing 344 parking spaces on its own for the 2 existing office buildings.
Yep.
And then later, if this board approves the 40B, you'd be allowing 102 parking spaces for the proposed 40B building. So each of them would be zoning compliant on their own.
I guess I get that, but I think what makes it work here is that it can be shared, because we all talked about, right, the people in the office building, they're gonna be leaving when the people living in the 40B are coming home and vice versa, so
Of course,
it
and
almost seems like it's ideal to have that memorialized somewhere. I don't,
Well, maybe the best protection is that each of those future owners, if there's a separate owner for 4A and a separate one for 4B, is they have the approved plan and they each have what they own. And so if there'd be a need to divvy up formally with signage or whatever, where each lot's occupants may park, they can point to the approved plans. There's lot lines, I guess.
but I get the concept. I guess for me, practically, I wanna say yes, because both are owned by the same person, there's not gonna be an issue, but I could see where one day down the road it's split up, there could be an issue.
But as George was saying, if you look at what's required based on the bedroom mix. On the
I
4B,
understand what
we're
you're saying.
compliant. It's compliant in and of itself.
Right, I think maybe what James is trying to say is, yeah, you comply with what we agreed to, but is there actually sort of a conflict because somebody who lives in 40B is parking in something that's technically ran to the office, does the office building say, hey, you're not supposed to park there, whereas we have a concept of shared parking here. Maybe what would make us feel a little bit more comfortable is that there is something, I have no idea how to memorialize this, but that it would be understood that there's a percentage of shared parking space. Is that fair to
That's
say?
exactly what I was saying. Yes.
I really don't know how you would do that, honestly,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
I think the concept would be good.
How it's done is between neighboring commercial owners is parking easements.
Parking easements, all right.
Then I think then we're headed down the path of
Wouldn't that
Formal
be more
sharing.
license though?
either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
We have a property in Waltham, for example, and that's easement.
Yeah, it depends if you need it from like a regular, like a board. They have to have a certain number legally as opposed to a license. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Jamie?
No, that's my only thought right now.
Doris?
No, no, I get my question answered that I came up with 1.7 and then further answered that it's above, the requirement. But as far as the shared concept, I believe, save me if I'm wrong, we could get a easement at any point, should there be a problem. And I don't know how you get an easement in when there's too many other open items around it. I have a problem with that. So,
Yeah, I'm completely at a loss as to how you would
yeah,
document such a
And
thing.
I think practically, the future office building owner, if it is short for its tenants, is going to get grief from them and go to the apartment building owner and say, we need to delineate this more, or vice versa, if it's the apartment building that does
That's
the
exactly-
infringement. Those property owners are gonna have to come up with arrangement or signage or something formal at that time, practically, because of the grief.
because we have the open 40B. I mean, it's it proposed most units is 60 units, so we at least have our arms around it's compliant.
And we really are doing, this is really two separate items here, right? This is saying for the existing
That's right.
office, this is what we need to do. We really can't intertwine the two
Exactly.
right now. So. All right, anything else, Doris?
No, but I think you got a sense of where I'm at on it.
Okay, Mike?
Okay.
No, Doug had my question with, what days were the counts done? And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say my own take on it too was, well, as Mr. Van said, I've been there, I've seen the parking lots. Don't believe anytime soon we're getting get back to when people have to be in an office building every day of the week. That's just, I just don't think that's reality. I think that the younger generation likes what happened, and I think there's gonna be, it might be more strict than it is now generally, but I foresee that's not gonna be a problem. So it doesn't really, I'm not really concerned with going down to 344. I know it seems like I'm a little fixated on, but just trying to, you almost want to somehow have it in there that, hey, look there's an agreement in here that there may be a very low level amount of shared parking. I think you guys are more experienced at it than I, that probably does just get down to the two owners. And maybe I'm worried about something that's gonna happen. You want to?
Yeah, just briefly, Paul Carter, 6 Hillside Avenue. I wonder if issuing a variance for the parking split is premature because neither of the lots currently exist. They haven't been created. I think that the concept of the parking that they're proposing makes perfect sense. But for the board to issue a variance when the lots don't even exist now, I think is out of order. Out of the order of it. And I know that both are on the agenda for tonight, so I guess I would suggest perhaps might forego formal decision until after the lots, it's settled how the lots are gonna be created, because they're showing lots on a plan that don't exist. So,
Well, I think that's a reasonable request.
yeah.
I don't think that's right, as I understand, it runs neighbors, but
Council has to say.
that's the good news that here. And I think that we need. Oh, that's on the property, yes, yes.
Okay. Amy?
Mimi Latrell, 19 Oregon. I have a question on shared parking. So that's not allowed in our zoning code. So is that a use variance?
Oh, since you're not proposing anything formally, like the building commissioner said, it's not spoken of at all in the Southborough zoning code, so you're correct about that, so what they're talking about is really something that's formal, and I think we, as a couple of us, are saying, well, we just want to avoid people having arguments about it, but in terms of it being a legal issue, it's not really being formally proposed.
Okay. Sounded like there was talk of agreements or
Well,
easements.
I think some of us feel like maybe that would be a good thing to avoid an actual argument, but legally, I think as they're saying, grant the variance and then go on and approve the 40B, the office building gets 344. There is no legal problem. 40B gets 102. It's all fairly clean.
And I agree with Mr. Carter. I don't know where the lots are yet. It's unclear to
Right.
me that there's been a subdivision. So I don't know how you grant spaces to a lot that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I'd like to. Do you have an opinion on that? On us granting a variance for 344 parking spots. I mean, it seems to me like it's really being granted. This is a change to what was the original.
The original
Application, right?
for that particular property, which
I-
is my understanding of the application as
Yeah.
well.
But do you see that as a problem that, I mean, we still have to split these lots and that hasn't happened yet? Is that something that should we continue until we actually do that split?
I don't think it hurts to continue. I haven't looked at the question of
Okay.
whether it's a formal legal requirement. I don't believe that it would be because we're really talking about the use that was permitted
Yeah.
pursuant to the prior permitting, and we're really talking about amending that permitting to allow for a lesser number of spaces with respect to this office building.
Right.
So
That is, I mean, it really is pending a previous granted permit.
correct. I see the appeal of
Yeah.
approving everything all at once. That makes intuitive sense, but if I'm being pressed for is that technically legally required, I don't believe it is.
So in my practice, like, some towns are very strict on, like, if we don't have a plan in front of us, we can't approve this. Other towns are very, very like, hey, listen, we can give this approval conditioned upon this.
Okay.
Because what happens is, I honestly think that is a more practical way to go.
Okay.
Because what happens is it's kind of like that, you're always trying to catch, like, well, we're trying to get all of these pieces of the puzzle done.
Yeah.
And this, were the board to grant this, this is conditioned upon the lots being approved. So we can't approve, we've got to get those lots approved. But to me, this is a step that we can kind of,
Right, so
we're gonna put this into motion, conditioned upon the approval of those lots.
right.
To me, and again, certain towns are very strict and are
Okay.
like, no lot, no decision, we're not gonna,
Right.
like, so like Hudson, for example, is really strict.
Mhm.
Where like Westboro, for example, is like, no, we're gonna give a conditional approval on this. Pending that, and I feel like that's more applicant friendly. From a procedural standpoint, because then it's like everything's frozen until this is done, and then we have to catch up on all these other. I just don't, to me, I don't find it impractical. I find it impractical.
Okay.
I understand the concerns, I do, but at the same time, I think we just make a condition upon it.
That's
I
reasonable.
think we'd be agreeable to that.
I mean, I think that's a very good argument. You can always put in, this is conditional based on, and now you're right, now we're not trying to loop all this back in
And I
later.
I think the gentleman and Mimi raised a really good point.
Yeah. It
But
is a good point.
I was waiting to kind of like, hey, listen, I want to make sure we do this on a conditional basis.
Oh,
So we
okay.
have that.
Okay.
That was really gonna be like kind of my 2 cents.
Okay.
But it's really just a preference of the board.
Yeah.
To me, I just am always inclined, all right, let's keep moving, we're gonna do
Mhm.
this on a conditional basis, because if they change the plans, if they change something else, then this decision doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go with.
Hi there, Marnie Houlihan, 26 Clifford, but speaking as a planning board member. I just want to reinforce Mr. Carter's comment as well as Mimi's concern, and I appreciate the conditional acceptance. My worry is that if there are significant changes, I think that as you move forward in the 40B, the 5-story is still kind of an egregious number. I personally don't support that. And if you were to change the dynamic of the lot line, the property size, your entire subdivision would need to change. So I'm really reticent to support a conditional agreement, and I understand it's your decision, but I would ask you to really think about what's the best path forward, and that subdivision seems to be a major priority, particularly as it meets the requirement for frontage and all of that. It just seems like we're putting the cart before the horse here. So thank you for allowing me to publicly speak and comment.
Thank you. Doug, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Just a couple quick comments, I guess. I don't have concerns with the 211 spaces per 1,000 square feet. I think most office buildings are heavily overparked, and that was before COVID. So the premise of reducing the spaces to 344 is fine with me. I know it's a separate topic. I also think 1.7 is probably more than sufficient. On the topic, I am a bit not sure about whether we move conditionally today or we wait another meeting, just to see how the other things sort out. I think some of the people have, stated some good things, but I do agree with Mike. At some point, I'd like to start moving some of these components forward. I'm just not sure where I stand yet tonight on this, but the concept of the variance is fine with me.
So I think the question I come back to is, do we feel like we can go forward to grant the variance with a condition, or are we better, if we decide on the other hand to continue? My question is, what will we discover? Like, is there some research we need to do regarding this, that we're gonna know more about, say, in November than we do now?
Unless there's specific factual curiosity the board has, and is going to direct the applicant to perform, I'd say the answer appears to be no.
Yeah. So, yeah, that would be the only logical reason for continuing it, in my opinion. But, so, this is separate from 40B. We can discuss it further. If we think we're ready to take a vote.
I did very specific. This is not the 102 spaces. It's the 344 spaces.
So,
Right.
right, so yeah,
Yeah.
previously granted was a larger number. Doug's right, not as many people park anymore. They're asking for special permit to say, hey, 344. Okay, so. Got it.
Yes, sir. Do I need to come up or?
You can, as long as you speak up.
As long as you speak up,
We got
Paul
things
Carter,
for you. Thank you.
Hillside Avenue. I guess there are at least two significant things new information that will come about. One is in terms of how and if a subdivision occurs. Right now, it's very questionable. There is no frontage proposed. I'll address that later during the 40B. As Mimi mentioned, 5 stories. They can easily do 4 stories or 3 stories.
That's not what we're talking about.
Okay, all I'm saying is that the footprint of the building may change in the process. So those are 2 big things that I don't think that would be new information, that would be a change, that would be significant.
Okay. I think that means we need to do interesting statements in the condition. I think you're just saying, based on the approval of the 40B application, right? Jamie?
I have a thought, as I'm thinking about this now. If we approve the 344, and then let's just say they do decide to do a 3-story, or the plans really change and they're still gonna have to come back to us, right? And
Correct.
say either we need more or less in that office space, so I guess approving it doesn't really have a negative.
Well, and maybe, could you condition it saying the 344 is approved based on the condition of approval, but also a statement there that sufficient parking for, the building as proposed
Right.
is in place. Something maybe more elegant, but that, to that effect. So that, I think your concern is, do they grow the footprint? And now you've got fewer, but, if you can word it such that you don't interfere with the minimum parking requirements of 40B, then we'd be okay. I would think that would give you some leeway.
I mean, I think drilling down, Mr. Chair, to its essence, if it's a conditional grant this evening.
Yeah.
And then the plans change on the 40B.
That's right.
The conditional grant is null and void because
That's
the condition
exactly
is not met.
Okay,
So it may be perhaps the applicant wishes to continue to have it all voted at the same time, because maybe that makes their life easier in practical terms, or no skin up their nose.
Just what I was gonna add, it's the petitioner's, you know,
Risk.
he's up for tonight, it's what do you, what's better for you guys? As far as what makes sense from, are you looking for an approval with conditions, or do you wanna hold off, like? Tell us what makes more sense on your end.
I think we'd like approval with conditions.
Okay.
And the board in the decision might reference the lots as shown on plan dated, whatever.
right.
Our hope being that the lot lines do not change.
With the condition.
Okay. Yeah,
And that's reasonable. The risk would really be to the applicant. If those conditions don't hold, then the approval's no good.
That's it.
okay.
Can I ask one more question? I understand the shared parking, if we approve it, will really be an agreement between two private parties. Beyond that, right? We can't say that there has to be shared parking, but is there any way to be like, to put in the decision that the board, one of the reasons the board approved it is because of how large the parking lot is, and there's this ability to share parking, even though ultimately I understand to be two private parties
Yeah.
to make that decision in the long run, if it's not owned by the same people going forward.
The finding?
I don't know.
I don't like that. Once you,
Just
Yeah.
think you want to avoid that language?
I do, and the reason is I want that in the minutes, in the meeting, in the discussion, that was a formulation for our determination. But the moment we start adding that as, because it doesn't even exist.
Right, no, I guess.
It doesn't, that's a concept, that's a theory, that's a maybe. And so once we start bringing in so many alternative options, now our decisions become more and more messy. We want to have these conditions tight. So if they disagree and say we didn't violate these conditions, we want to have crystal clear conditions. That way we're protected as a board. That way the applicant has clarity on the way they can or cannot move forward with this decision. Go from there. But again, I don't want to sell anybody on my jaundiced view of the world.
That's fine. I think having it in the minutes is.
I think it's an important discussion.
If any private party comes down the line 20 years from now, they'll be able to go back and see.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I don't have any more public comment. I don't know, I mean. Not I mean, I think they're generally. They're fine, it's just, I think,
Oh, that's right, they requested.
Yes.
And they said that several times.
so, Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry.
We do. We want to go through that as findings, but I think we want to close the public hearing for that.
Well,
And I
also,
also.
do we need to ask what's the hardship?
Once you close the public hearing, you can't.
Right.
Water, excuse me, can I just step out for just a sip of water?
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
actually,
back in 2 seconds.
all right.
Why would we take like a 2-minute recess?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask that to take a 3-minute recess because I realized I left my water. Yeah, so we take a 3-minute recess. I'm gonna say we're gonna resume at 8:06.
Or signing.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Got it.
No, I do my work because
So,
it's like noisy.
thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Just
Sometimes.
We're back.
That was one of the statements.
So where were we?
Yep, sorry. Are we back?
Yeah, we are.
If I could, I just had maybe a suggestion, or want to run a concept by to the board, maybe the applicant. Again, I do think it'd be great to be able to move forward on this and making condition, but it feels like we're, it's making it very tight though, so there's not much flexibility. My gut, it sounds like, is that there's not too many concerns with the number of spaces for the office buildings, given it's over 2 spaces per 1,000. I might suggest, because it might give us a little more wiggle room, maybe it's more something where, proposed 344, but no less than 335, which may give a little more wiggle room on the Chapter 40B project if we decide to do something about height or something different. I know we're not supposed to mix them, but I'm just putting that out there because at least the comments I've heard from the public, but might be something to consider.
We do that?
I don't think we can mix.
It's not on the application.
That's it. It's not in front of us. I love the idea. I
Yeah.
totally agree. I thought it was brilliant. I started writing it down. I was like, we can't Yeah.
Okay,
cross the streams.
yep. Great.
That's a Ghostbuster reference.
Yeah, I
Come
know.
on.
I know.
I know it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That must be a.
You never
Yeah,
cross.
Sonic guy thing, I know it.
That's guy movie.
So, like you made a good point about the hardship, like, I don't know,
It's skin.
what would you say is the hardship here for the?
I could tell you if the topography of the land to the south side of the site wasn't graded and elevated the way it is, we could have included more parking spots there. And because it's graded the way it is, we can. And that specifically hones in on topography. And the unique lot shape as well.
And to just be clear about lot shape, you've got, it's very tight to the east because of, DCR land wetland.
Okay.
And then as we were looking at earlier, it's oddly shaped already with that notch that goes to the west in front of the, I think it's 132 Turnpike.
So it's oddly shaped to a wetland and boundary fully, right?
Oh, for the hardship?
Not the hardship.
Oh, absolutely. Right there. That, I think that's a reasonable explanation, and hardship presented by the petitioner. But again, that is my position.
So my feeling is still, I think we can go ahead and have a sufficient condition agreed to that's not gonna box us into a corner. We tie it to, like, as you, Mr. Charter suggested, to the existing, the proposed, basically the proposed lot 4A and 4B, say, and what that has presented this evening. I think we're reasonably covered. Any other board discussion or?
Want to make a motion to, would you entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
I would.
Make a motion, close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, motion's been made to close the public hearing with a second. I'll respond in favor with aye, opposed nay. Jamie,
Hi.
Doris,
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Doug.
Aye.
And Williams, aye. Right, that closed the public hearing. We kind of talked all, I think, pretty well through this. We know what we want here. We're looking for a motion to approve with conditions for the, that's what we're saying, based on the divided properties of 4A, 4B as presented at the meeting this evening.
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
Do you want to nail down the conditions
Let's-
for our motion?
Yeah, okay.
yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do is let's just go through this. Mr. Chair, I think that the petitioner has shown the hardship with respect to the lot's shape and the grading, that the proposal is not going to be substantially detrimental. I feel that petitioners requested approval. They have expressed their willingness to agree to contingent, that the approval would be conditioned upon the approval of the lots 4A and B that were submitted and shown to our board on Thursday the 8th, right?
Thursday, yep.
Yeah, something along those lines. I'm eloquent, I am not.
So hardship, topography, grading, not substantially detrimental. Findings are. Actually kind of similar.
Well, that is the finding. The finding is that the hardship, it's not substantially detrimental. And then the language on the conditional approval. And it's expressly contingent upon the approval of the lots 4A and 4B that were submitted and shown to the board.
All right.
Do you, sorry, keep interrupting.
No, please.
Do you want to name the specific plan that was submitted with the
Yes.
application?
Yes, please, and thank you.
Oh, that was the Russian one. I do have something left in my.
What's the,
Because they used to get all the seal. It's a constant, like a constant. Everything.
So there's an actual plan view.
They do have.
Parking plan.
Parking plan is possible, right?
Maybe a date, just reference the date.
Yeah.
Of the most recent plan iteration.
I was gonna include, prepared by and for all that.
Perfect.
Okay.
That makes sense. They don't copy those.
Have to take kids off. Sounds like they should.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
It's not
I-
that, it's
I'm
not.
not sure what the suggestion is, but perhaps it's the first motion would be to adopt the findings that the variance standard is met, hardship, topography, lot shape. Then a second motion to approve with the main condition. Is that the suggestion?
We'll normally do that, honestly, but I think we're just trying to get I think Mike brought up a good point.
Do it all in one fell
To
swoop.
get, to agree what our findings are, what the hardship is. And the conditions so that we can make a motion.
Gotcha. One motion to do the findings
Yeah.
and the conditional approval. And it's by agreement with the applicant. I don't see.
Bless you.
Bless you. Selfishly, I know I'll probably be looking at this decision, so just want to have it clear in my mind as to what it will be.
Makes perfectly good sense. Right. We know that's about it.
I think so too. I think there's more ducks and more roasts than we
More
have in a
ducks and
while.
more roads, yeah. You wanna take a crack at the motion? Sure. Maybe I will. Yep.
Making a motion to approve the petitioner's request. My motion is that the petitioners have met the requirements needed in 48 for post hardship.
Oh, okay, right.
To meet both the hardship and that based upon the soil shape and topography, it's not more substantially detrimental. And it is expressly contingent on the approval based on the parking plan of lot 4A at 120 Turnpike Road as presented at a hearing on 7/8/24. Sounds. I'm gonna try another crack.
10/8/24, yeah.
10/8/24.
Make a motion to approve the petitioner's request with the express condition that the approval is based upon the parking plan of lots 4A, and I believe it's 4B, correct? And 4B, 120 Turnpike Road is presented at our zoning board hearing on 10/8/24. Findings of hardship.
I'll second it.
All right, motion's been made. Approve the variance. Second, all in favor, respond with aye, opposed nay. Jamie, Doris,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Williams, aye. That will approve the variance.
Okay, with the condition.
With conditions. A condition.
I butchered that like a kid on an operating. Buzzers going on. What's the word?
But streams didn't cross.
The streams did not cross.
I'd love it to. It actually it was a good idea.
All right. So what that leaves us is the two you doing together, the comprehensive permit and the special permit. Before we get too far into this, just an agreement on what you think is available for substantial discussion this evening. We have feedback that came from our conservation board. Just today, we got comments from peer review, and I know it's just today.
Yes.
But either, at least the conservation board, I'm assuming you have a copy of that.
We do, we got it right. Yep.
So, because as I read today, what we got back from peer review, there was a fair amount in there that was resolved. So I don't know how well prepared the board is based on that, maybe not that well. You could try to just look at the areas where it was not considered resolved, is what I was thinking, or we could, at a minimum, we could start with conservation agents' feedback, because I think that lines up pretty well with peer review.
It does.
Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
And I guess if it's a matter of everybody having more time to review what's just come in the last couple of business days, that brings to mind an idea I hadn't thought about, which is a brief continuance in the sense of even next week at your scheduled monthly meeting, where we could talk about what's just arrived.
Okay.
On the other hand, my plan coming in would have been,
Go ahead. I'll
Yeah.
continue. Yeah.
my plan coming in was though to talk about the handful of open items from the LDC letter especially, and how
Okay.
I kind of view those as falling into a handful of groups.
Okay.
And that with a week or so, I think we could, from our side, we don't think that a further site plan set is needed. Because it seems like it's more detail sheets and that sort of thing that could be added
Yeah.
and address LDC and even conservation's concerns. And so that led me, I was gonna say, if we could head toward the end of October or early November for a special meeting, that may be a time to close the public hearing. Because there's so few substantive items left,
Okay.
but I think I will query whether we talk next week. And talk about conservation and peer review.
Okay, well.
We're prepared to run through what's open.
Yeah, but I mean, it's sort of a fair point. I mean, I was just taking that was substantial, but it is kind of difficult that it only came in today
Mhm.
and everybody's a job. So,
I didn't look at it.
What if I walk through how we group it? And what we think is open, and then we decide if it's a 1 or a 3 or 4 week. Continuance? Or you do all the site, of course.
There is no meeting.
There is no meeting.
Yeah, we don't have
Okay, right?
Sorry, that's why we're meeting tonight.
It was our regularly scheduled meeting,
Yeah.
but.
yeah,
we
I mean,
shifted to tonight.
yeah. So, but I still think it makes, I think I'm still okay with what you're proposing. But then I think we do have to talk about, well, if we're gonna continue it, when are we gonna continue to?
That's, to me, it makes more sense. I haven't read it.
Yeah,
I read conservation, but I assure you, I haven't read anything that came in at 3:30, so.
Yeah. But
I need to read peer review.
right, and
Yeah.
I think we should, I think it's a
I
good
know I
suggestion
should.
to say, let's have the opportunity to read the peer review, because it was very late.
Mm.
So, but I do think we could still maybe accomplish some things, or maybe we could see what you believe are the highlights. If you're willing to do that, and again, I'm sorry, could you just reiterate, it's based on what the LDC feedback
Yes, we're prepared to speak to what they sent late this afternoon
Oh.
and what conservation submitted Friday.
and what conservation, okay. And I'm just, I don't want to put anybody here, I don't think it's right. But I think the way I read it is, I'm just really looking at the ones where they didn't say resolve, because they said resolve. That to me sounds like the peer reviewer, your engineers went, yeah, we can fix this.
Yes.
And I don't see that there's any value in going any further down the line on it. But the ones where they say this remains open or it refers to another. I think the thing we should do here is not making it too substantial. But maybe you can just help highlight to us, these are the areas that are where like we can focus on.
We'll do.
You agree?
I think that's fine. I also think we could just, from what I saw the email really quickly, I think we could just read the paragraph out loud. You could speak to it very quickly what the actual response was and
Okay.
give us his review. I tell you, I have no time next, so.
No
that's
time
not
next
gonna
week.
be-
Sorry, being reminded of that, I'd say the minimum were 3 to 4 weeks if the board would be open to a special meeting later this month or being in November.
Okay, all right.
And I thought is why I say 3 weeks is, I think that will be enough time for us to submit these details that are requested. And for LDC to hopefully provide a final memo showing essentially everything.
So the idea being that maybe even more things could close down, that we don't really need to spend a lot of time asking what's going on with this.
Absolutely.
Correct. Because I mean, it was 14 pages. It's an awful lot to try to digest. And that's why I said, if it says resolve, I just don't have the time to spend any time on it. Mr. Carter?
Yeah, Paul Carter, 6 Hillside Avenue. I guess I would say that having come in at 3:30, the public, the residents of the town aren't privy to the final peer review. And I think that they should be given a little bit of time too. I do think the board wants to make a judgment on the peer engineer's decision, whether it's resolved or not. Because there may be other issues other than straight facts that relate to the responses and whether it's closed out or not.
All right, so is that, where do you think? You're right with Jamie. Did you want to start with conservation? Or I'm sorry, did you already have a number of things that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, I reading especially LDC's feedback, I kind of grouped them in 4 buckets. What are the open items?
Okay,
The first is there are a couple things noted that we had actually taken care of that LDC just didn't catch.
okay,
One is, they mentioned that we should ask for a garage waiver about parking garage of a certain size in the highway business district.
Hmm.
And that's in our most recent waivers list. So
Okay.
we can have our engineer pass that on to LDC to take it off the list. And they asked us to include a shade tree calculation. And that is in the most recent submission that LDC had seen. We'll just direct their attention to that.
Oh, shade.
Shade tree calculations, yes.
Good.
The next bucket were things that I would say, if the board finds it acceptable, that we talk about with town council's office.
There were a number of notes that said the town council had an opinion on those.
The gist
Is
of
that what you mean?
those, it's basically three or four, for lack of a better term, broad waivers that relate to the site plan approval section of the zoning bylaw, low impact development or LID in the zoning bylaw, and then a generic request for waivers of town charter and bylaws.
Could you?
The town charter and
Okay, I
bylaws.
just didn't hear you. Thank you.
And LDC's response naturally is these waivers are very, very broadly worded. And so we think, there should be more specificity, which is what you would say if you were an engineer looking at it.
Yeah.
What we'd like to talk about with town council is whether, especially in their comprehensive permit experience, such waivers need to still be included in the ultimate decision of the board and in the comprehensive permit itself.
So you've got a number of them that you think that should just be a conversation with town council.
Yeah, it's just really those three that LDC mentions. Major site plan approval, LID, and town charter and bylaws. Because again, LDC says, show us where's your plan you need that relief. But the whole comprehensive permit and the whole 40B is relief from site plan approval, for example. Yeah, so what more are we gonna say about it as our
Yeah, so sorry, the third one you said is town charter.
the town charter and bylaws? The third group is what I call substantive but non-engineering related, like not necessarily the things that the engineers have to work on. For example, LDC has asked for a sign plan, which we received last week, just showing what the changed monument sign will look like. So if you drive by right now, there's an existing monument sign for the two office buildings. It says 118 and 120 side by side. And we have a new plan that would basically add on top of that reference to the apartment building. And so we'd like to share that with you and have LDC have a chance to look at it. Again, that's a detail.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect the bird's eye site plan. Do and what LDC looked at show the monument sign's position, which is one thing they wanted to see.
Good.
They reference the parking variance, which we've now covered.
Yep.
And they reference no work happen, preferably no work happening in the 20-foot no disturb area. Which, of course, will be a subject of the notice of intent, which is our pending before the Conservation Commission. And so those are really the three that stood out in substantive, but more engineering related or non-engineering. And then for the engineers, there was feedback about stormwater redesign.
That was an overriding thing.
It was. And also, you probably saw, Mr. Chair, what's called V2C2 data.
Yeah.
I think that's for Mr. Tatro to talk about with the gentleman at LDC. That's sort of engineering.
What is that? Just for,
Yeah,
Yeah, the DEP Stormwater Handbook has a volume 2. I know if it's chapter 2, but he's just referring to the section of the DEP overall Stormwater Handbook
okay,
and what its recommendations are.
it was jargon that I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it, without going too deep into it, it seems a lot. They're looking for more on the semi-permeable surface, right? And your calculations there, maybe. I don't know. That seemed like it came up a fair number of times. Again, we shouldn't dive too deeply into that here. I would agree, because I think Mr. Carter made a good point. I think the board needs to have some more time to review as well. So I think what you're doing here is good practice. Just highlight most of those. Did you have other things that go into the engineers?
along the same lines, Mr. Tatro submitted the DEP stormwater checklist and worksheet.
Yep.
But LDC would like to see us submit the Southborough Town form worksheet and checklist, which James will do. And then finally, I think falling for the most part in the engineering category is the conservation agent's feedback from Friday.
Okay.
And not to go one by one, but it's, adjustments to the O and M plan. Add a discharge compliance statement.
Okay.
Tweak the pollution prevention plan. And he's gonna be doing those things so that we address each of the concerns raised.
What, for the record, what O and M is it?
Operations and maintenance.
So. In your, how would you characterize those? Are those a little bit more at the margins rather than? It's gonna be a hard thing to sort of resolve, or?
No, I think they're all very appropriately substantive.
Yeah.
But they're not anything we can't respond to.
Right, so in other words, that's something that Mr. Tatro and Pierre review it.
Yeah,
So,
or better yet, he could speak about with the conservation agent and the
or the
commission.
conservation.
Yeah, that's their comments.
Oh,
That
right,
attorney
yeah,
now.
yes. Okay, correct,
Yeah.
with the conservation, yeah.
Stormwater, the worksheet and checklist, the V2C2 data, that's James and LDC.
Yep.
But now these other things I would mention, O and M, pollution prevention, that's Melissa.
Yeah. Maybe.
While I'm thinking of it, I wanted to mention.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, just,
One more update. I know I think it was at the meeting on September 4th, we talked about the school's feedback on they would serve this and be able to access the property.
yeah,
So we had a great conversation with the assistant superintendent, Mr. Boy. And at his request, we prepared a swept path analysis for a 45-foot school bus, which is what they said they would serve the property with. There's a question, would it be pickup at Route 9? Would they use a long bus or an abbreviated one? And he said they would likely serve it with a full-length bus. And so Mr. Tatro prepared a swept path analysis, 45-foot school bus. And that showed that it worked in terms of that radius around the building, the driveway toward those garages and then back around. And we've shared that with schools. That said, I think they're disinclined to, provide an opinion about a comprehensive permit.
no doubt.
And so, but we feel like we've provided them information about the project and they're able to serve it, what Mr. LeBoy said.
Okay,
So that's one other update. And again, our architect, Monty French, is here. If there were questions related to architecture, we thought now, or this evening, would be a good chance for those.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Amy?
Yes, Mimi Latrell, Chair of the Planning Board. So I have several questions that I've had since the very beginning that have been unanswered. A subdivision plan was required to be submitted with the initial submission, and it hasn't been. I can't figure out those lots. None of them. There are pieces of lots, but I can't figure out what those lots are. It's also required in your own CBA's regulations that all submittals plans conform to chapter 24410, which is the subdivision definitive plan regulations that requires that all the proposed and existing and proposed lot lines, streets, easements be shown on the plans, and I don't see those on the plans. They were asking for a waiver to allow zero frontage on the 40B lot, and that's a violation of Mass General Law. And 40B does not allow the waiving of Mass General Law. And as we all know, there was a 40B approved in this town that violated Mass General Law, and it did not end well for this town. So I don't know, and on the peer review, it says resolved, although it mentions that section of Mass General Law. I don't know how that was resolved. So I'd really like to see a concise subdivision plan that I can see the lots. Also, they're asking for waivers from sections of the code, LID and site plan. It needs to be absolutely clear that there's only one lot that should be allowed to get those waivers. The other lot is required to go back through site plan, through the planning board. Also with subdivision, only one lot should waive the town requirements for subdivision. The other lot should conform to those. So I think it should be very clear that those waivers are for the 40B and not for the lot outside the 40B. Also, your regulations require that plans are stamped by a registered land surveyor. Although some of the plans the plans with the lots on them and the square footage shown are not stamped by a land surveyor. So I'm wondering who arrived at that square footage and how, if it wasn't surveyed. Your regulations 6.4 recommended maximum building height not to exceed 3 stories, and this obviously does. And the waiver on the sign, that's not even on the 40B lot, and it's unclear to me how waiving all town requirements for sign size and illumination would affect the feasibility of the project. So the waivers are supposed to enable this project to move forward and be buildable. I don't know how a sign would impede that. And the general waiver from town charter, which we don't have, and all general bylaws is not consistent with local needs, and the regulations CM 760 CMR 5600, which regulate 40B, say that applicants need to demonstrate how each section of the bylaw would impede the ability for them to develop the project. So these blanket waivers are dangerous, they're unenforceable. Like, how's the building commissioner is supposed to figure out how to enforce that in one sections of the law are, so the general waivers are just a bad idea and should be denied. And then finally, the open space lot, which is a requirement of the condition of an approved and recorded site plan approval, has a drainage swale with it. So it's looking to, denude part of the open space, which is not meeting that condition of the site plan and is unacceptable. And my final question is, who is LA Associates? And what is their relationship to Ferris Development? In their application, their experience in affordable housing lists all these projects by LA Associates.
Okay. I will say that I don't know if it's exactly what we're talking about, but I think we asked about the subdivision plan every week. And I thought Jay kind of talked about that at the last meeting. Like that it should be part of what of the process here. I did see the waiver with the regarding the no frontage, and that's probably worth exploring a little bit further. Some of the items here that you raise, they have a belief that that's a discussion with town council, so I'd like to let that proceed. I think the drainage swale on the open space lot is a great point, and that was actually, I think that was raised by by Melissa as well. So I think they are going to need to address that. So I think they're all valid. I don't have a good answer for you on all. I don't know if they do at this moment. In terms of the plans. Will there be a point where you have that? I mean, a land surveyor stamp on the plans for the dividing the lots?
Yes, the Control Point Associates stamped the existing conditions plans, and they reviewed the site layout plans, created plans that show that lot breakout. They just didn't stamp that plan, then went out with this set, but
okay,
that's not an issue at all. But
so I guess to address that, we will see a set of plans with the land surveyor stamp.
please.
Or, yes, Mr. William, next come forward. I'll try and be brief. I want to see this project go forward. I want to see affordable housing go forward. And I think there has been a lot of progress made. I think there's still a couple outstanding issues. You know, mine. Some of them were touched on. Not all of them. The yeah, let me touch on those.
I have it, thank you.
So, the 40B states that the zoning board of appeals has all the power that the planning board has and other boards that relate to that. However, the planning board doesn't have the power to approve an A&R plan without frontage. As Mimi mentioned, 20 is the state law. There's no way you're going to get a surveyor to approve an A&R plan or a definitive subdivision plan in its current state. And that's what you're going to need in order to be able to record the plan. I'm not saying that the ZBA won't be able to sign the plan, but it's in its current state. This is what it needs to look like. I prepared a sample plan. I submitted it to the ZBA. I spent 4 years doing this. It's very clear from the subdivision regulations what a definitive plan or even a preliminary subdivision plan needs to look like. They don't even have subdivision in the title of their plans. They're not ready to accept that a subdivision is required. I don't understand why. They can create frontage by doing 50, maybe even a 37-foot wide road where they're now showing an easement maybe. Yes, they will have to go through a ZBA and a planning board comment just for the board and for the lawyer. This is what is written in the regulations that were issued by the Department of Housing and Community Development. Their manual on overview of the subdivision control law, Master General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81K through G. They state specifically that subdivision plan has to be approved by both the planning board and the ZBA. We really need a written opinion from your town council specifically on this issue.
I'm like, there's some of these things that come up repeatedly, and like, there's something we do have to talk about. This is one I would prefer.
Yeah, and I respectfully ask that the ZBA request a written legal opinion on this issue. Because I agree, we've talked about this a number of times, and I understand that you may be tired of talking about it. The other thing is, so perhaps if the board could give an opinion on whether they will ask the town council to give a written legal opinion on this at some point.
I'm certainly going to speak with Jay to try to get some. I mean, there's a number of things here that are follow-ups through Steve and Jay, of course.
The other thing is,
talk about the height, right? So if I could,
yeah, sure.
I don't know. Are you going to? I just know it's going to come up every time. We have the architect here. I don't know if this is. We don't have a lot of other people here. It's getting a little bit late. I don't know if we want to have the conversation now about the height. I mean, you did ask the architect here. I know I've gotten a little grief for not allowing the conversation, but we can't just have that conversation at every single meeting. It's got a good valid point. At some point, we need to just hear why, what it looks like. And I don't know if that's something your architect can help with, or you think that's neither here nor there.
With all due respect to him, I don't think it changes much. I mean, we've talked about this. We all have been at the hearings where we've talked about.
Yeah.
It was proposed on the hill. And folks want to make sure that there was conservation land respected. And so we brought it off the hill.
Yeah.
And we're trying still on the applicant's behalf to achieve a certain yield of units. And that brings the building to its current layout.
And you talked about how the top floor is recessed back
Yes.
from the edge,
Yes.
so it actually gives the appearance of something smaller.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really, architect's not really gonna help here. At some point, it does need to be a discussion, but. I don't know.
We're not getting into it tonight.
I don't-
That's my position.
Yeah, I'm not sure we want to do it. We want to get into it.
Because
We're well aware of it. I mean, I think we talked about it at least 3 other meetings. We can certainly plan to, when we, what we agreed to in an extension, can agree that we do have to address it at some point. So,
I think what we should try to do is if I could, Mr. Chair, is I feel like this is the elephant in the room.
yeah, it is.
And so to me, everything else flows from this. And I really want to have much more public comment on that as far as like have it, like if we have a continuation and just say, listen, we're gonna kind of have this kind of be out there for the public. But
Yeah.
so we can get more public feedback, because again, like I want to be fair to the petitioners, but I also just don't want to have us getting into the height on a night where it's.
Well, that's the thing. It's 8:45 and
Quarter
we
got
really,
a couple of people
we have
here,
one
but that's
person
it.
from the public and we have one
Board member,
representative.
so I just don't, I don't feel like it's fruitful for
I agree.
it's my position. To get into the weeds on that tonight, like, and I hear you, because to me, it's like. We're dancing around issues and it's like, how about the heart attack in front of us?
That's the fundamental issue
It's,
of the whole project.
everything else flows from that. So to me, I'd rather try to see if we can
I think-
spotlight that and say like, all right, let's get into it.
All right, I think that's a fair point. So,
For the applicant, I would just say.
Yeah.
I mean, from our perspective, we're within a couple of more iterations in this hearing where we think that the hearing should close.
Yeah,
The hearing began last December. And admittedly, there was a design change after a lot of input from the community.
Yeah.
Where there were many more attendees at the hearings.
Yeah.
And we've come up with a plan that shows the building where it's now proposed. And the attendance at the hearings has gone down because we addressed the conservation concern, I might say. And so, your agendas are posted publicly. Folks could be here tonight to talk about height. I want to be respectful of Mr. French and his travel time to get out here. And so I would like not to have him come at the remaining couple of
Brian,
iterations.
did you not say that there's not a whole lot he can do
Well,
with
yeah.
that when it comes to the height?
yeah, but
I don't think it's an architectural question, is it?
that's fine.
I think we all have some opinions already based on, the balloon test and walking through the woods to see what we can see, et cetera. I think we understand your angle saying it's obviously more economically advantageous to have six stories, right? So, I don't know, and maybe it's my own fault for pushing it out and not making it the elephant in the room earlier. So, but I think Mike makes a fair point. We should talk about it, but I would like to do it earlier in the evening.
Yeah.
With more fresh around.
I'd rather have this be the first thing we get into.
So the height comes up at each and every meeting. I had hoped it would go lower than the 5 and all the community members that consistently said it's still too tall. Although I can understand and see that where we go out to the site with the balloon test, it's far lower than even 5 stories would be, but it's quite.
Yeah.
But I feel as though community is not going to want 5 stories. I'm not talking about myself.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit surprised that, maybe there's leeway in there. I don't know if it's an architectural issue exactly.
Right.
I'm not gonna architect the building, but I'm thinking about, can we get it down and cavalier and put some not loose parking? I'm coming up with all these concepts in my mind to get this building down. Because we really do need this housing and they need their units. But I think we got a problem. Got a problem, I think, It's probably. The other issue for me right now, and I'm hearing Mimi, at each meeting, is this frontage issue, how are we dealing with that? I mean, I saw it given the application.
That's a question that we need to.
Yeah.
It's
we need to get
huge,
from
it's
town
huge,
council.
yeah, it's huge, okay, so town council's
Yeah.
gonna,
What's your position on that?
yeah.
I think you've heard from town council on it. He has seen this layout, lots 4A, 4B, and 4C. And has said that it's within this board's power under 40B to subdivide the lots as shown.
Yeah.
And you know, you can think about the A&R path, which the applicant is not going to pursue. The A&R path could result in the creation of lots 4B and 4C. And there would be a notation, not a building lot without zoning relief. Well, 40B is zoning.
Okay, so we have to get another, because
Yeah,
that's not a real road, I think it's also, it's come up in a meeting,
well,
sort of a driveway road.
My whole thing is I would like to just get that definitive. I don't
Okay.
really don't think like us beating it back and forth here is gonna do anything. I'd like to, Jay has an opinion, he's offered one.
Fine,
Let's
okay.
get it in writing.
Yeah,
And that's part of why we had the pending application for special permit as well. So that the 2005 special
Yes,
permit
right.
can be amended
Right.
to speak to the shared driveway use.
So
Right.
it
Okay.
is late, David, so I'm on board with the late part, and I'm more than happy to go at this point.
what do we have on, so we're gonna, if.
I'm sorry, Mr. Carter, you.
Yeah, I
think it would
No,
be fairness. I do appreciate what you're giving us. but
I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I completely understand.
Okay, I do feel somewhat responsible, but I know we do have to get to talking about that. Mimi, what do you have?
Well, just in response to,
I'm a real non.
Attorney Chevelle. When I spoke to Jay with regard to this, and when he has spoken at this meeting, he was adamant that you can't have less than 20 feet of frontage. You can't have a zero frontage lot. So I don't know how we're still there. And yes, the under 40B, the zoning board can subdivide the lots, but not with zero frontage. That's a violation of Mass General Law, which 40B does not waive.
I appreciate that, Maureen.
I want to thank the ZBA for their patience.
I
I really.
appreciate your patience. Good grief.
No, you're diligent there.
Ah, yeah.
You haven't missed a
Good
meeting.
God.
Well,
This is kind of like,
this is a good, this needs to go forward, and I don't see any reason why it can't. It's just the developer isn't hearing it, you know. He's not hearing what the plan needs to look like. He's not hearing what the legal issues look like.
I think.
And I think he can easily comply with everything that's being asked for. Because I don't understand stone law.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any advantage to me quickly talking about just the quick
Yeah.
massing of the building? I don't know if you have any exhibits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have the renderings by chance? Because I can, unless you,
Of course you got it. You didn't realize
Do you
no
want
one knows
the
what
most
the alien
knowledgeable
fears
thing?
are.
And I would note that you recall when we first repositioned the building, it was going to be 6 stories. And then once the plan set came in, we had heard feedback and adjusted it down to 5.
Originally it was 4.
I think I
Correct, but
heard
they did,
before.
but when they moved it down the hill.
so I'll be super quick. I just wanted to,
We could get back to
not to
something.
get into a discussion, but just to share some of the logic behind this. So this is obviously an elevated perspective, just so that people can see the 5th floor, because when you're at grade level near the building and from some distance from the building, you can't see the 5th floor. So we purposely set it back and gave some green space around the edge of the building. And you'll see that we tried to also treat the corners of the building, where we pulled back some of the massing at the corners to kind of break down the scale a little bit at those places. So there's some strategic parts about the massing that help the appearance of the scale on the building. I know that there was an exhibit shared here you know, that has gabled roofs and things like that. So that's another strategy with the flat roof to also give that appearance of the building being a little bit shorter. Again, along with the setback, fifth floor. And then again, we brought that cornice line across the top of the fourth floor to help really enforce that height, just because we didn't want to accentuate the fifth floor. So that whole notion of the fifth floor. And then I don't know if you have the next perspective. Maybe that one. So this is kind of, you know, and even further back, we kind of try to rotate it so that you could get a glimpse of the fifth floor there, peeking over the top of the fourth. But in reality, you have to be way back before you start seeing the fifth floor. So that's and then breaking up the massing here, you can see that this is the approach to the entry. We gave a kind of an A-B look. So you've got the white portion and the gray portion. And then again, you can see how we tried to narrow the width of the building by putting the balconies out at the corner, again, trying to break down the scale of the massing and things like that. So, and then just last point here, when we talked about materials, there's a more robust masonry material at the base. And then we've got a mixture of clapboard and, you know, more familiar residential type materials in the body of the building, the three floors of the building. And then at the top, we did something more of a metal cladding, something that would be a darker tone, kind of go away. But again, that's giving it that kind of base, middle and top. And then using familiar materials that you would see in residential buildings and things like that, and arranging it in a way that helps break down the scale. So just wanted to quickly get that out there about the logic of the scale and how we tried to treat it in its appearance, and not just make it one big massive treatment. You know, we try to be sensitive to all those things.
Thank you.
Yep.
No, that's super helpful.
And then I guess real quickly, and then obviously the canopy helps draw attention to the entry. That's the way we connect our buildings to the obviously the public realm. But you know, that it's almost like a gable fronted house facing the street. So this is the narrow end of the building facing the street, and that's the entrance.
All right, I think the next logical order of business is to agree on when we're going to meet to. Great. Where do we have the extension on this? Where do we make this to?
Next Friday, October 18th is the current deadline to close the public hearing. Sorry, Wednesday the 16th.
So that's clearly need to move. But let's now let's talk about when we were talking about Brian, you thought November. It's good, right?
Early November or later this month. I mean, at this rate,
yeah.
later this month, late
Oh,
October.
we get sorry, you're right.
I can't commit to anything really until late November or mid-December. If I can be here, I will.
Have you made all the hearing?
Yeah, no, I missed one. Was it for this one or the other one?
You missed 250, so you haven't missed any for this one.
Okay,
So you
I
still
do have
need-
opinions on the height, though, so I don't know. If
Yeah,
I should
okay.
give them out now and just in case, or.
You can also submit them in writing.
Oh,
prior to the
okay.
meeting.
Yeah.
If I can make it, I will. I don't know.
And for this, your thought was it 3 weeks? Right. Yeah. As far as some of the other peer reviewed work, correct?
And Mr. Tatro coming up with the detail sheets, responding to conservation,
Okay, right. Yeah, yeah.
and making sure LEC has time to review what else we submit.
So. The different. Here, the 3 weeks is 29. So that's an extra meeting for us. But we would, that would be, it would just be this subject. We wouldn't do anything else.
For right now, that's open for me.
What was the date?
October
Tuesday,
29th.
October 29th. That's 3 weeks from today.
Yeah, I can,
You
wait,
can do it.
29. So that's another Tuesday?
Another Tuesday.
Yeah, I can do it.
Do it.
Doug, you still with us?
That works for me.
120. Okay, so, this is, I mean, we have to, you need to, don't, yeah. I don't know why I have a hard time with this. You have to approve, we request to extend it to, for another 3 weeks, correct?
We're
Yes.
continuing the trade,
We need to-
the
we need to-
extension.
Yeah,
But Chair, you need a written extension from the applicant.
right, but we, yeah, we do, that doesn't mean we gotta get extension on the deadline.
But I am thinking ahead. I feel like at this rate, the hearing, much as we'd like it to, will not close on the 29th of October. That's the next hearing date.
Right, probably not, no.
Correct. And so I'd like to avoid the ire of Attorney Tallerman and extend to a public hearing closure date just after that.
Okay.
Maybe a couple of weeks after that,
Are you suggesting 2 weeks afterwards?
so that it's not like the deadline is the next hearing. So perhaps
That's November 12th.
Friday the 12th. Is that a Friday?
That's a Tuesday. The 15th is a Friday. Do you want to do that? November 15th?
Or then I think that your monthly meeting is November 20th, although like you said, that's gonna be shifted up.
We're not gonna be able to,
Yeah.
do it, so it would. I would like to try to do something that week in November. I think, did you have a problem with it?
That's, it's up in the air. I'm
Oh, it's up-
thinking it
oh,
will,
Because you don't know about the.
yeah,
playoffs.
I'm thinking it will probably be fine, but I guarantee it.
Okay,
So,
gonna have to try to.
What dates are you looking at, buddy?
So I think what they're saying is. Move the deadline out to the 15th. We could plan to have a hearing sometime this week.
Yeah, let's, you wanna shoot for the
12th to
13th?
13th, yeah.
we already have the
Yeah,
13th.
we did.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
what matters.
We have 215.
For 250 turnpike.
But to.
Yeah, application.
Okay. All right.
I'd rather just do it on one night though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But,
That's fine.
and at this rate, we'll see how the 29th goes and then set that next.
Well, right, that could,
That's it.
that
We're not
could, that could really drive a lot of how it goes on the 29th.
But as a deadline for closing the public hearing, I think the applicant would agree with an extension. We'll submit it ready tomorrow through November 15th, the Friday.
November 15th.
Council, since I placed my board in a precarious situation, would you be so kind as to scribble out a written request on? Actually.
I'll
He's-
keep it with
he-
me.
He's worked with Jay before too. The card,
We can, of course, wait until tomorrow for a pretty piece of paper to stamp.
Yeah.
Chairman, you guys had talked about wanting to have a hearing where public perhaps, or those people that might care about the height of the building could attend. I'm just concerned that when that might be and how that's gonna fit into this.
we're trying to.
Pin that down
we're trying to
right
get the next hearing in 3 weeks, and I'm saying that's where we would. Take on the elephant in the room at last.
Thank you.
You know, we've gotta have all the plans submitted, we've gotta get a peer review done.
Yes.
But on the height question, I can't emphasize enough that we've had these iterations of the public hearing and this,
I hear
they
you.
should be here tonight.
The applicant hasn't responded to any height input.
Well,
Mr. Chair, for the record, I must state, we brought the building off the hills.
Yeah.
yes,
And we've reduced the height in the new location from 6 stories down to 5.
There it is.
I agree.
I agree.
It's just not fair. Just say something like that and not go responded to.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's,
Yep,
let's.
yep, you got it.
I'm gonna say, let's table it. We will.
I don't have authority, I don't think, to extend the hearing closure deadline beyond the 29th. So that's what I'm gonna write.
Okay. If you get additional authority between now and tomorrow afternoon, we can stamp that in tomorrow.
Mike-
Or council, you don't anticipate getting that.
I do not. My client's out of the country.
Okay.
Make a motion to continue,
October 29th,
make a motion,
7 P.M.
make a motion to continue the hearing till October 29th at 7 P.M.
Second,
All right, motion to continue to October 29th at 7 P.M. That's made and seconded. All in favor, respond with aye, opposed nay. Jamie,
aye.
Doris,
Aye.
Mike, all right, Doug,
Aye.
and Williams, aye. Thank you.
I think you need to continue the date for decision too, if it closes
God,
on Friday.
they have to, they're gonna submit.
They're providing that letter, yeah.
He's scribbling.
Okay.
So
So we're extending to October 29th.
spending to October 29th.
Per written request of the applicant.
Okay, so just taking care of items on the agenda, we do have minutes that we're supposed to approve tonight. They are. And wrong, but I think pretty accurate. Doug, did you have a chance to review the minutes? Did you have any concerns?
Yeah, I reviewed them. I didn't have any concerns.
Jamie,
Oh, I'm good.
you good? Doris?
I reviewed them, I don't have any concerns.
Okay. Now, we had, there's two steps, correct?
Yeah. August 21st and September 4th.
Okay. So first of all, I'll leave you take these things one at a time. So for August 21st. Need a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Motion to make, approve the minutes. As submitted.
Second.
All right, motion to approve, made and seconded, all in favor, respond with aye, opposed nay. Jamie?
Hi.
Doris?
Aye.
Mike? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Okay, the second meeting was set September 4th.
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the minutes as written for September 4th.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes from September 4th.
Second.
All right, motion to approve as written has been made and seconded. All in favor, respond with aye, opposed nay. Jamie?
Aye.
Doris?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Williams, aye. Right, we do, I thought you put somewhere in there, future meetings, but is it taken care of, or do you have anything else?
Yeah, so I guess just October 29th
Yeah.
for 120, November 13th, we'll have 2 regular applications and then 250 for pipe. December, our regularly scheduled meeting is currently December 18th. I just wanted to see if that was still something you guys could do. I know we've been changing it a ton and it still could change based on the 40Bs, but.
Yeah.
December, just the first week, I'm completely unavailable, but
I'm doing it the 18th.
after that, I think
On the 18th is fine for me in December.
Okay,
Yeah, I think they people be
I
fine.
don't have it in the calendars.
okay. All right, I just wanted to get a general sense of whether or not we would need to change that date, so that works for me. Couple other tiny things, planning board is having, not to point at you. Planning board is having a meeting on October 21st to discuss an ADU bylaw for Springtown meeting.
What's the date on that?
August. You said
October
October
21st. And seeing as that will impact you guys pretty significantly,
What time?
do you know what time? The
Usually
meeting starts
start
at
at 6,
6:30.
right? Or
We
6:30?
usually start at 6:30, but I'll defer to what works best for
6:30 sounds great.
our guests.
Unless there's some family, I'll just from a practice standpoint, I want to sink my teeth into that as well. I'm actually speaking on ADUs in Boston. A little bit later for housing symposium that I'm working on.
Oh,
Wow.
that'd be the perfect. time.
Oh, God. I'll likely call
You
it
can
fire.
start the meeting with the presentation.
Oh, God, no, I need to bone up on it big time. I literally, I haven't even read that. I haven't even read the statute.
I'm sure you work well on that.
February 2nd.
Well, most lawyers have to.
Most of us do.
If it wasn't for deadlines, nothing would get done.
That's true.
You think so?
Okay, so do you want me to post an agenda? Do we think we'll have a quorum?
For
Like,
what?
for
Well,
the-
if we have
you were
if we have
at
a
the planning
quorum,
board meeting.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was planning to go.
But like, if you
I'll
wanna
go
go,
if I can, I'm not sure.
So I'll just post an agenda to be
Post an
safe,
agenda.
just to be
and then
safe.
that way, if you have a quorum. Okay,
Yeah, okay.
All right, and something else I just want to put on your radar. That we don't need to do immediately, but should do soon, is we need to revise our comprehensive permit regulation. Our local one. They were last updated in 2008 and need a little freshening up. So, and
Sounds
Jay
fun.
said
That sounds big.
Yeah. Sounds really
it
fun.
needs to be a public hearing. Jay said he would help us with it, so I just wanted to put that on your radar that it should be addressed.
Is there a slow
sooner.
season?
Not lately, no.
After all, this would.
Yeah, after when the 40Bs are done, that can.
I sent Laura, like the monthly ZBA meeting for Newport, Rhode Island, 45 items.
What?
And that's like every single month,
Right.
like
This was
you
rapid.
should see those meetings. If you go out to the bathroom, they call you, done, next, go. 45 items on any given night, like that was
Yeah,
just
but
at
we
a
have-
meeting in
We
August.
have one
Okay.
application of 45
Yeah.
items.
Yeah,
I
but
think
trust
that's
me,
all I
they
know.
deal with it all.
Okay.
It's
So
just,
that's
it's,
wrong, yeah.
That's right.
it's everything in Newport's pre-existing
Yeah.
non-conforming. You
Right.
want a deck on your
Okay,
house?
that's it.
So,
Alright.
Yeah.
you want,
That's cake.
you wanna fix your roof and build up, no.
All right, I think we're good. I think we can do Paul's favorite thing.
We make motion to close the, adjourn, that's right.
Yeah.
Adjourn.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Has been made and seconded. There we go, Jamie. Thank you. All in favor, respond with aye. Opposed, nay. Jamie,
Hi.
Doris,
I.
Mike, Doug,
Aye.
Williams, aye.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks very much, everybody.
I gotta